Standing in front of 50 people at my mother's birthday party, holding the microphone, I just used to give a heartfelt speech about everything she meant to me. I watched her look me dead in the eyes and say the 6 words that shattered whatever was left of our relationship. I wish you weren't my daughter. The room went silent, completely silent. You could hear the ice melting in people's glasses. But I didn't cry. I didn't run away. I didn't do what everyone expected. Instead, I looked right back at her, smiled, and said 5 words that made her face go white. Consider your wish granted, Mother. I'm Laura, and this is the story of the day I finally freed myself from the woman who gave birth to me, but never truly became my mother. Let me take you back to the beginning, so you understand exactly how we got to that moment, because that birthday party wasn't just one bad day. It was the culmination of 28 years of emotional neglect, manipulation, and a relationship so toxic, it was slowly poisoning every aspect of my life. I spent my entire childhood trying to earn my mother's love. I was the kid who brought home straight A's, hoping she'd put my report card on the fridge like other parents did. She never did. I won awards at school, certificates for excellence, trophies for competitions. I'd bring them home with this desperate hope in my chest that maybe this time, she'd be proud. Maybe this time, she'd smile and tell me I did well. Instead, she'd glance at whatever I was holding, nod briefly, and go back to whatever she was doing. No celebration, no pride, nothing. My younger brother, on the other hand, he could bring home a C-, and she'd act like he'd won a Nobel Prize. She'd cook his favorite meal, call the relatives to brag, make a huge production out of the bare minimum. The difference in how she treated us was so obvious that even relatives commented on it, though never directly to her. They'd pull me aside at family gatherings and tell me they were sorry, that they saw how hard I tried, that it wasn't fair, but nobody actually did anything about it. Nobody confronted her. So the pattern continued, year after year after year. As I got older, things got worse. When I was 16, I got my first job so I could help with household expenses. My mother had been complaining about money constantly, crying about how we might lose the house, how she couldn't afford this or that. So I worked 20 hours a week after school, gave her most of my paycheck, kept barely enough for lunch money and school supplies. Did she thank me? Did she acknowledge the sacrifice a teenager was making? No. She took the money like it was her right, like I owed her for the inconvenience of raising me. When I went to college, I did it on scholarships and student loans, because she told me flat out she wouldn't help me financially. Fair enough, I thought. I'll do it myself. And I did. I worked 2 jobs while carrying a full course load, graduated with honors, and landed a good job in my field within months. My mother's reaction to my graduation? She didn't come to the ceremony, said it was too far to drive, even though it was 90 minutes away, and I'd offered to pay for gas. My brother's high school graduation, 2 years later, she rented a party hall and invited 100 people. The pain of that comparison never got easier. It just became something I learned to carry, this constant ache in my chest, this question that haunted me every single day. What did I do wrong? Why wasn't I good enough? Why couldn't she love me the way mothers are supposed to love their children? After college, I got a promotion and a significant raise. Finally, I had financial stability. And that's when my mother suddenly became very interested in my life. Not in me as a person, not in my achievements or my happiness. In my bank account. The phone calls started coming regularly. She needed help with her mortgage. Her car broke down. The roof needed repairs. Medical bills were piling up. Each time, I sent money. Thousands and thousands of dollars over the years because despite everything, she was still my mother, and I still harbored this desperate hope that maybe if I helped her enough, she'd finally see my worth. I paid for her car repairs. I covered 3 months of her mortgage when she said she was facing foreclosure. I paid medical bills, credit card debt, home repairs. I even paid for a vacation for her and my brother, a cruise she'd always wanted to take, because she mentioned it once and I thought maybe, just maybe, this grand gesture would finally break through to her. She took the vacation, posted pictures all over social media about what an amazing time she was having, how blessed she was, didn't mention me once. Not a single acknowledgement that I was the one who'd paid for the entire thing. When I gently brought it up afterward, asking if she'd at least like to thank me, She got angry. Told me that gift giving with expectations is manipulative, that if I wanted recognition, I should have said so up front. The mental gymnastics were astounding, but I kept trying. That's the thing about children who grow up without proper parental love. We become addicts, constantly chasing that high we never got, convinced that the next gesture, the next sacrifice, the next proof of our devotion, will finally be enough. 3 months ago, my mother announced she was planning a big birthday party for her 60th. She wanted something special, she said, something memorable. She started describing this elaborate event: catered food, live music, professional decorations, the works. Then came the part I should have seen coming. She didn't have the money for what she wanted. Would I be willing to help? And like the fool I'd always been when it came to her, I said yes. I didn't just help, I funded the entire thing. We're talking about $15,000 for this party. The venue, the catering, the band, the decorations, the professional photographer, the custom cake, everything. I used a significant chunk of my savings, money I'd been putting aside for a down payment on a house, because she said this milestone was important to her. I also planned the whole thing, coordinated with vendors, created the timeline, designed the invitations, managed the guest list. My mother sat back and enjoyed being the center of attention, while I worked myself to exhaustion, making sure every detail was perfect. The night before the party, I barely slept. I was at the venue until midnight, making sure everything was set up correctly. The morning of, I was there at 7 a.m. for final touches. I ran around, solving last-minute problems, making sure the caterer had everything they needed, ensuring the band had the right setup, confirming details with the photographer. I did all of this while also making sure I looked presentable, because I knew there'd be photos and I didn't want to embarrass her by looking tired or disheveled. The party started at 2 p.m. Guests arrived, everyone dressed up and ready to celebrate. My mother looked beautiful. I'd also paid for her dress, her hair appointment, her makeup. She was glowing, accepting compliments and well wishes from everyone. I watched her work the room, laughing and smiling, and despite my exhaustion, I felt happy. I'd done this. I'd created this moment for her. Surely, she'd acknowledge that. Surely, today would be different. At 4 p.m., it was time for speeches. Several people spoke, sharing memories and kind words about my mother. Then it was my turn. I'd prepared something heartfelt, something that expressed my complicated feelings in the most generous light possible. I talked about her strength, her resilience, the sacrifices she'd made. I carefully avoided mentioning anything negative, keeping the focus on celebration. I concluded my speech by saying, "Mom, I hope this party shows you how much you're loved and appreciated. You deserve to feel special today." I meant it. Despite everything, some broken part of me still wanted her happiness. I handed her the microphone, expecting maybe a simple thank you, maybe a hug, something to acknowledge the enormous effort and expense I'd put into making her day perfect. She took the microphone, looked around at all the guests, and started thanking people. She thanked the caterer for the amazing food, thanked the band for the beautiful music, thanked friends for coming, thanked my brother for always being such a wonderful son, thanked distant relatives for their gifts. She thanked everyone except me. I stood there, smile frozen on my face, waiting. The acknowledgement had to come. It had to. I'd just spent $15,000 and weeks of planning. She couldn't possibly overlook that. But she did. She wrapped up her thank you speech without mentioning my name once. Not once. The rage that flooded through me was like nothing I'd ever experienced. It was hot and cold simultaneously, making my hands shake and my vision blur at the edges. Someone in the crowd, one of her friends who knew I'd planned everything, called out, "What about Laura? She put all this together for you." If you've ever felt invisible to the people who are supposed to love you most, if you know what it's like to give everything and receive nothing in return, hit that subscribe button right now. This story is going to take a turn you won't believe, and you need to be here for what happens next. My mother's expression changed when her friend said that. Something dark flashed across her face. Annoyance, maybe, or resentment. She looked at me, and I saw something in her eyes I'd seen many times before, but had always tried to ignore: contempt. She looked at me like I was an inconvenience. An obligation she resented having to acknowledge. The microphone was still in her hand. The entire room was watching, waiting for her to say something nice about her daughter, who'd just thrown her a $15,000 party. Instead, she laughed. This short, bitter laugh. And then she said it. Honestly, sometimes I wish you weren't my daughter. The room didn't just go quiet. It was like someone had sucked all the oxygen out of the space. People's mouths fell open. Someone gasped. I saw several people exchange horrified looks. The band stopped playing. Even the servers froze. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. All the air left my lungs. My ears started ringing. This was my mother. In front of 50 people. On her birthday. At the party I'd funded and planned. And she'd just said she wished I wasn't her daughter. Part of me wanted to crumble. Part of me wanted to run out of there crying, to find a corner somewhere, and fall apart. That's what the old Laura would have done. The Laura, who'd spent 28 years trying to be good enough, trying to earn love that was never going to come. But something else happened instead. Something inside me that had been bending under the weight of her rejection for my entire life finally snapped. And when it snapped, it didn't break me. It freed me. I felt this strange calm wash over me. Crystal clarity. For the first time in my life, I saw the situation exactly as it was, without the filter of desperate hope or denial. My mother didn't love me. She probably never had. And nothing I could ever do would change that because the problem wasn't me. It had never been me. It was her. Her inability to love, her selfishness, her cruelty. I walked up to where she was standing. She still had the microphone, looking slightly uncomfortable now because even she could sense she'd gone too far. The room was completely silent, everyone watching this scene unfold like it was a car crash they couldn't look away from. I gently took the microphone from her hand. She let me, probably thinking I was going to apologize or make some excuse to smooth everything over. I'd always smoothed things over before, not this time. I looked directly at her, my voice steady and clear. You wish I wasn't your daughter? Okay, consider your wish granted. As of this moment, you no longer have a daughter. You have a stranger, who shares your DNA, and who just wasted $15,000 and 28 years, trying to earn love from someone incapable of giving it. Her face went white, then red. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. I continued, the words flowing out of me like a dam had burst. I paid for this entire party. Every single thing you see here, I paid for. The food you're eating, the music you're enjoying, this beautiful venue, your dress, your hair, your makeup. I planned every detail, while you sat back and criticized. And you couldn't even say thank you. You couldn't even pretend to appreciate it. Instead, you publicly humiliated me. Again. People were staring at her now, and I could see the judgment in their eyes. Good. Let them see her for what she really was. I have spent my entire life trying to be good enough for you, trying to make you proud, trying to earn basic maternal affection. I've given you money, time, effort, love, everything I had, and you've given me nothing but contempt and neglect. You've treated me like an obligation you resent, while treating my brother like a blessing you cherish. The difference has been clear, since I was a child, and it's broken something in me that I'm not sure can ever be fully repaired. My mother tried to interrupt. Laura, you're being dramatic. I didn't mean. Don't. My voice came out harder than I'd ever heard it. Don't you dare minimize this. You meant it. You've always meant it. The only thing you regret is saying it out loud in front of witnesses. I turned to address the room. I want everyone here to know that my mother didn't pay for any of this. She didn't plan any of this. She didn't contribute anything, except criticism and demands. And when given the opportunity to show basic gratitude, she chose cruelty instead. I want you all to remember this moment. Remember what kind of person she really is. Turning back to my mother, I felt tears finally starting to form. But they weren't sad tears. They were angry tears, cleansing tears, tears that came from finally releasing decades of suppressed pain. You got your wish, Mother. I'm no longer your daughter. Don't call me, don't text me, don't ask me for money ever again. Don't expect me at future holidays or family gatherings. You wanted me gone? I'm gone. Enjoy your party. Enjoy the food and music you didn't pay for. Enjoy the attention you don't deserve. And when this is over and you're alone, Enjoy living with the consequences of your choices. I set the microphone down on the nearest table, grabbed my purse, and walked toward the exit. The crowd parted for me, like the Red Sea. As I passed, several people reached out to touch my arm, offering silent support. Some were crying. One of my mother's friends whispered, "Good for you, honey." My brother tried to stop me at the door. "Laura, wait, you can't just leave like this. You're ruining her party." I looked at him. This person I'd grown up with, who'd watched our mother treat me like garbage for years, and never once stood up for me. Her party? I paid for her party. I'm not ruining anything that wasn't already rotten underneath the pretty decorations. And you? You're just as bad as she is for never saying anything, for benefiting from her favoritism, and pretending you didn't notice how unfairly she treated me. Lose my number. I walked out into the parking lot, got into my car, and drove away. In my rearview mirror, I could see people spilling out of the venue, clustering in groups, probably discussing what had just happened. I didn't care. Let them talk. The truth was finally out. The drive home was surreal. I kept waiting to feel guilty, to regret what I'd said, to want to turn back and apologize. But I didn't feel any of those things. I felt light. Lighter than I'd felt in years, maybe ever. Like I'd been carrying a massive weight my entire life, and had finally set it down. My phone started blowing up within minutes. Text messages, calls, voicemails. I ignored all of it, turned my phone off, and just drove in blessed silence. When I got home, I ran a bath, poured a glass of wine, and let myself process what had happened. The tears came then, but they weren't tears of regret. They were tears of grief for the mother I'd never had, the childhood I'd deserved but didn't get, the years I'd wasted chasing approval that was never coming. I cried for the little girl inside me, who'd tried so hard to be good enough. I cried for the teenager who'd given up her paychecks. I cried for the adult who'd drained her savings trying to buy love. And then, I stopped crying and started planning. Because cutting off my mother wasn't just an emotional decision, it had practical implications that needed to be addressed. The next morning, I turned my phone back on. 63 missed calls, over 100 text messages, dozens of voicemails. I went through them systematically. My mother's messages started angry. "How dare you embarrass me like that? You're ungrateful and cruel. After everything I've done for you." Classic narcissist deflection, making herself the victim. Then they turned manipulative. "I didn't mean it, you know I love you. You're being too sensitive. Can't you take a joke?" Gaslighting, trying to make me doubt my own perception of what happened. Then came the guilt trips. "You're breaking your mother's heart. How can you be so cold? Family is supposed to forgive." Finally, desperation. "Please call me back. We need to talk about this. You can't just cut me off." Watch me, I thought. My brother's messages were predictably useless. He wanted me to apologize to her, said I'd overreacted, said I was being dramatic. He'd lived his whole life as the golden child and couldn't conceive of a reality where our mother was anything but perfect. But there were other messages too, messages from people who'd been at the party, expressing support, telling me I was brave, sharing their own stories of difficult parents, offering friendship and solidarity. Those messages meant everything. One was from my mother's sister, my Aunt Rebecca. "Laura, I was at the party. I'm so proud of you for standing up for yourself. Your mother has always treated you unfairly, and I'm ashamed I never intervened more directly. If you need anything, I'm here. You deserve so much better than what she's given you." I called Rebecca that afternoon. We talked for 2 hours. She told me things I hadn't known, about my mother's jealousy of me even when I was a baby, about her resentment that I resembled my father's side of the family, about her personality disorder that the family had quietly acknowledged but never addressed. It gave context, though not excuse, for the way I'd been treated. Over the following weeks, I stood firm. My mother tried everything to reel me back in. She sent flowers with apology cards. She had relatives call me on her behalf. She even showed up at my apartment once, but I didn't answer the door. Each attempt was documented, each boundary violation noted. I also started therapy, something I should have done years ago. My therapist helped me understand the pattern of abuse I'd endured, the scapegoat role I'd been assigned in my family system, the trauma bonding that had kept me coming back despite the mistreatment. She helped me process the grief and anger, helped me start building healthier relationships and boundaries. Friends who'd watched me struggle with my mother for years told me I seemed different, happier, more confident, free, because I was. The constant anxiety of trying to manage her moods, anticipate her needs, avoid her criticism, it was gone. The financial drain of her endless requests for money had stopped. The emotional exhaustion of never being good enough had lifted. I started investing in myself in ways I never had before. I bought the things I wanted instead of sending money to my mother. I took a vacation I'd been putting off. I invested in my home, my hobbies, my friendships. I started dating again, something I'd avoided because my mother had always criticized my choices in partners. 3 months after the party, my mother sent a letter. A real, handwritten letter. In it, she admitted that she'd treated me unfairly. She acknowledged the favoritism, the financial exploitation, the emotional neglect. She said she wanted to go to therapy, to work on our relationship, to make things right. I read the letter 3 times, looking for the catch. My therapist and I discussed it extensively. Was this genuine change, or another manipulation tactic? Was she actually taking accountability, or just saying what she thought I wanted to hear, so I'd come back and resume my role as her personal ATM? I decided to wait. If she was serious about therapy and change, she could do that work on her own for a while. Real change takes time, sustained effort, consistent, different behavior. I wasn't going to rush back in just because she'd written one letter. 6 months after the party, Rebecca told me my mother had indeed started therapy and was, from what she could see, actually doing the work. She'd stopped bad-mouthing me to relatives. She'd stopped trying to contact me directly. She was, apparently, facing some uncomfortable truths about herself. I still wasn't ready. Maybe I never would be. And I was learning that was okay. I didn't owe her forgiveness. I didn't owe her a relationship. The fact that she gave birth to me didn't obligate me to accept mistreatment. Now, a year later, I'm in a completely different place. I have healthy boundaries. I have genuine friendships. I have self-worth that isn't dependent on anyone's approval. I have money in my savings account because I'm not funding someone else's life at the expense of my own. I have peace. Do I sometimes miss having a mother? Yes, but I miss the mother I deserved, not the one I had. And I've learned to mother myself in the ways she never did. I celebrate my own achievements. I comfort myself when I'm hurting. I speak to myself with kindness instead of criticism. I've become for myself what she never was. The anger has faded into something quieter, but no less permanent. I'm not consumed by rage anymore. But I also have no illusions about who my mother is, or what she's capable of. If she has genuinely changed, good for her. That doesn't mean I'm required to give her access to me again. People still ask if I'll reconcile with her. My answer is always the same. Maybe someday, on my terms, if and when I'm ready. Or maybe never. Both outcomes are acceptable. My healing doesn't require her participation or approval. What I want everyone watching this to understand is that you don't owe toxic people your presence just because they're family. Blood relation doesn't excuse abuse, neglect, or mistreatment. You have the right to protect yourself, to set boundaries, to walk away from relationships that harm you. Will people judge you? Absolutely. Will some people tell you you're wrong, that family is everything, that you should forgive and forget, without question? But those people haven't lived your experience. They don't carry your wounds. Their opinions don't outweigh your well-being. The moment I stood up at that party and took my power back was the moment my real life began. Everything before that was me living in service of someone else's needs and wants. Someone who would never appreciate or reciprocate. Everything after has been about building a life that serves me, that honors my worth, that reflects my values. Was it scary? Terrifying. Did it hurt? Immensely. Do I regret it? Not for a single second. If you're in a situation where someone, even a parent, is treating you as less than you deserve, I want you to really hear this. You deserve better. You deserve love that doesn't come with conditions. You deserve appreciation for your efforts. You deserve to be valued, celebrated, cherished. And if the people in your life can't or won't give you that, you have permission to create distance, to protect yourself, to choose you. I know it's hard. I know it feels impossible. I know the guilt is overwhelming, and the fear of being alone is paralyzing. But I promise you, the freedom on the other side of that fear is worth it. The peace that comes from no longer accepting cruelty is worth it. You are worth it. That birthday party was supposed to be a celebration of my mother. Instead, it became a celebration of my liberation. The day I stopped being her daughter and started being fully myself. The day I stopped chasing love from someone incapable of giving it and started giving it to myself instead. So here's what I want you to do right now. If this story resonated with you, if you've experienced something similar, or if you're currently struggling with a toxic family relationship, I need you to share this video. Share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Share it so others know they're not alone. Drop a comment below telling me your story, telling me what you're dealing with, telling me what you need to hear. Let's build a community of people who understand this pain and support each other through it. And subscribe to this channel, because I'm going to keep sharing stories about boundaries, healing, and choosing yourself. You deserve to hear these messages. You deserve to know your worth. And you deserve to be surrounded by people who remind you of it. This is Laura, and I'm telling you with absolute certainty, you are enough, exactly as you are, and anyone who can't see that doesn't deserve access to you.